We have a tool in our shop that only does one thing, but does it very well. It cuts perfect circles from sheet metal. It works just like a hole punch for paper, with a peg and a hole that mesh so closely that a sheet of paper pinched between them gets sheared through with the application of pressure. The disc cutter consists of three parts: a bottom die that acts like the bottom blade of a pair of shears, a punch that acts like the top blade, and a top die that aims the punch. All three are necessary to cut a disc. The sheet is placed between the top and bottom dies. The punch is placed in the hole in the top die and advanced to rest against the sheet. Pressure is applied to the punch until it shears through the sheet. The punch is pushed further until the disc passes a threshold and drops out of the bottom die. The punch has a waist where it becomes narrower than the cutting edge of the punch. Once the waist is tapped past the sheet, the punch is able to drop out of the bottom die. Use the lever on top of the die set to separate the two halves. Slip your sheet between the two dies, and sight down through the hole in the top die to aim your cut. Don't be afraid to make the cut close to the edges of your metal or previous holes. Slip a scrap of the same thickness on the opposite side so the dies stay parallel. Use the lever to close the dies and snug them down onto the sheet. Find the punch that fits the hole you've chosen. Lube the sharpened edge with burr life. Slip the sharpened end into the hole and advance it until it rests on your metal. When you have the punch properly inserted, it will go all the way into the waist of the punch. If you still see any of the shiny part, wiggle and twist it till it slides all the way in. If the die's handle is in the way after using it to tighten it, you can move it without loosening the dies by pulling it up and turning it until it's out of the way.
Cool. So you don't need to videotape this part.
There should already be a heavy steel riser on the press bed and a 1/4-inch Kevlar plate on top of it. Place the die assembly on top of the Kevlar plate and center the press's pusher over the punch. If the pusher isn't already mounted in the press, drop the 2 bolts through the outer holes in the top plate of the press. Line up the first bolt with one of the holes in the pusher, and just start bolting them together. Switch to the second bolt and move the pusher until you can get the second bolt lined up, and then screw them together fully until finger tight. Switch back to the first bolt and finger tighten it. Put on a face shield. If it doesn't fit, twist the adjustment knob at the back until it does. The press has an electric hydraulic pump that applies the pressure. It has a black spring-loaded on switch. And there is a silver handle on the side that has 2 positions: return and hold. Flip it to hold. This will allow you to advance the press in short bursts without the press bed dropping back down every time you take your finger off the on button. Poke the on button until the pusher is close to the punch, adjusting the position of the die assembly until they align, and then touch. Then use short pokes of the on button to advance the press until you hear the thud of the punch breaking through your metal. Then flip the lever to the return position and allow the press bed to drop back down. Only advance the press in short bursts and stop once it's through your sheet. Chuckleheads keep crushing holes in the Kevlar plates and breaking the smaller punches by holding the button down until the whole system bottoms out. Aside from the damage to the equipment, this is very dangerous as the extreme pressure placed on the punch is suddenly and violently released when it breaks. In fact, my advice when using the 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch punches is don't use the press at all. Hit the punch with a brass mallet instead. The press is just overkill. Slide the die assembly forward to the edge of the press bed and put your free hand under it as you pull it clear to catch your disc and the punch. Hopefully they both fall into your hand. More often though, one or both will be stuck in the die because the disc hasn't passed the threshold in the bottom of the die, or the waist of the punch hasn't cleared your sheet. If this is the case, lay the assembly on your hand and gently tap the punch with a rawhide or brass mallet until whatever is stuck drops through. Be careful not to hit the tightening handle when you do this. Don't be afraid to put your holes very close together. The only metal lost in the process is whatever you waste with bad aim or by knocking your discs out of the middle of overly large pieces of sheet.